think I was gonna make it. All right, go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna open the meeting. If I could see my agenda.
There we go.
Right. The first thing I want to say is I'm really happy that we're able to meet in person for the first time in, what, almost 2 years, right? Year and a half, 2 years. So
March of 20.
it's a good feeling to see everybody. Sometimes you don't recognize people when you've only been seeing them on a
All
Zoom
look
call.
strangers.
but, So having said that, it feels good to be back. So I think we're still maybe waiting on Danell, but if he gets here, great. And if not, I'm sure that he'll check in with us. So going down today's agenda, did you give us minutes to approve? Is that correct?
Yeah, those were a little bit late, but those, I think I'd sent out around 3:40, so.
Did anyone get a chance to look at those, or should we push those out? You were able? I was not able to
I didn't
read
look at
them.
either.
So
Are they here, right here?
It should be right after the agenda.
is it just for our last meeting?
Yes, the 15th.
Do we want to take 2 minutes and read over?
Yeah, it's just so.
and
Yeah.
Just so we can get this
Get it
out of the
done.
way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pat, there's seems to be some pretty big allowances under this rapid recovery, right? I mean,
In terms of the extent of the funding, or?
getting away from some of the zoning, not necessarily the bylaws, but the principles, you know.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go into that in a little bit. So you're talking about the subject matter expert
Yeah.
opinions? Yeah.
Uh,
That was more or less finding a couple of our potential project items.
Yeah.
And then bringing in an expert to provide more in-depth kind of background information of how those initiatives can get done. So that's kind of where that project is at now. I'm sure we'll go over that.
Yeah, like, you know, the outdoor dining, I think, is something that, under the old bylaws, you couldn't do much about it.
Yeah, from what I've been heard, I think they passed a bylaw, was it last fall, to kind of have that process be a lot more seamless and just
Yeah.
go through limited site plan review.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? No abstentions? Everybody was at the meeting last time? Okay, good. I know sometimes it's, you forget you weren't at a meeting and then,
I know.
I
You
can't
don't know
tell ya.
which meeting is.
right, exactly. So I just wanted to make sure that no one was in favor of a meeting that they weren't at, which I've done before, so. Okay, first order of business. Patrick, do you want to talk about the
Yeah,
rapid recovery plan?
so if y'all recall, so that rapid recovery plan was a grant that the town got back in early January, mostly between the town as well as Destination Downtown, the nonprofit, applied for that jointly. So it's been kind of an effort between me and Sarah Khatib, the president of Destination Downtown, working with our plan facilitator, which is essentially our consultant on it, to kind of take a more in-depth look at the downtown, get a look of both existing, structurally how it's set up, as well as what were concerns and issues throughout COVID and how the town fared, especially the businesses in that area. Right now in the process, we've been kind of categorizing project items to look at, both in the short term as well as long term and midterm growth. A component that I kind of highlighted today was dealing with subject matter experts. This is kind of an additional provision with the grant where you can apply to receive free counseling from experts on a few different selected projects. And so 3 of the projects that we want to take a more in-depth look at was, just bringing them up right now, providing technical assistance to retail and downtown businesses. In particular, we wanted to kind of look at how to create more of a digital marketplace for those businesses. That's been kind of an initiative that a few other towns have done. The second one was looking at zoning and permitting within the central business district, to how to better implement and facilitate growth, make it a little easier for that to happen. And the third one was just kind of something that I know this is more of an aesthetic thing, but also something that to get a little better idea of how to implement a wayfinding program. Obviously, that's not something that's a major solution, which is why it was kind of our third SME application, but it's an item that hopefully can kind of create a sense of place and awareness for for walking around downtown. The one in particular that I'm definitely interested in learning about and talking to an expert on is how we can better provide technical assistance, as well as setting up a digital marketplace. I felt like that's more kind of true to the original purpose of the grant, which is relief and recovery for our business owners and proprietors within the downtown. So I think that's something that hopefully we get a lot out of and be able to implement something similar to that. Right now, I think our plant facilitator has been able to apply for 2 of them. I just actually, before I came down here, I think we just got a response back from one company that would be able to kind of help guide us on the technical assistance and review. And so we'll look to just start scheduling those and seeing what we can find out. Overall, though, the project is hoping to probably be wrapped up by early fall, at least getting that report together. From there, like as I mentioned before, the whole purpose of this is also to kind of take a more in-depth look at how our town is set up, look at what growth and changes have happened since COVID or pre-COVID, and a lot of that information that is being kind of gathered from the towns that have taken part of the grant, all that is going to kind of help provide a basis for providing future actual grant programs to implement these projects. Because ideally, we can do the research. I know there's the downtown study done in 2019 that had a lot of similar sort of projects. Being able to kind of actually get that money to implement, that capital funding to implement some of those more detailed projects, that's ideally the most important thing. And some of the projects that we've worked on, they're more kind of long range things that we can do in house, that we can take the time to do with just town staff. But overall, I'm looking forward to finding out what comes next after we've done this, and especially from the state side, what can we expect from future grant funding projects. So.
Now, do you see the digital marketplace and the branding maybe going hand in hand with, trying to tie those together to something about,
Yeah,
historic whatever, downtown Walpole or something?
I think that the digital marketplace idea tied in kind of with technical assistance is probably more or less, obviously getting small businesses kind of accustomed to maybe doing, whether they need help with social media and marketing or setting up their own websites. Obviously, some businesses have, especially from COVID, had to adopt to, delivery or pickup systems. But I do like the marketplace idea, not just for providing that kind of one-stop location for people that are coming to the downtown and want to kind of find resources easily, but also maybe it can help kind of create a sense of identity for those local businesses, that they're part of that group that's within that digital marketplace.
I wonder if there'd be any option for like an app. People
Yeah.
they're just so used to going on their phones, and rather than going to the website looking through an app, like if there's an app that we can use that's out there that can link all these different things. And there are apps that do them. We use them where I work, but it might be a good idea,
I think that's a great idea, yeah.
But I was discussed with Sarah back
Mhm.
last year, when they were putting together those maps. I think the input from this committee was more, 21st century, wouldn't an app, come in more handy for a lot of folks as they come into town? So it's, definitely something to build upon, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, you can think about just like the influx of new residents within the downtown itself. So that's kind of something that you're hoping you can obviously capitalize on. And if people are living in the downtown and they see what's out there, this is just another avenue to kind of reach them and provide, easy interaction to find businesses that they're looking for.
The tough part about that is getting people to look at it, obviously.
Yeah.
So one way that people have been successful doing that is you make it important for them to look at something else, and then that gets thrown along in with it. For instance, if we had a parking app for downtown,
Yep.
people would come into town, need to find out where can I find a parking spot? And by the way, you're looking to eat jalapenos, Raven's Nest, this place, you're looking for this. By the way, this place just moved in. And I'm not saying it has to be a parking app, I'm just using that as an example. You have to give them something to look at to solve a problem,
Yeah.
and then mix in some promotion along with it, in my
Okay.
opinion. If we just develop some sort of an app or some sort of something that they have to go to find where they want to go.
Yeah.
That's what Google's for.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. And I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to find a place to eat in Walpole Center, I drive down and I look and I say, all right, what looks best right now, you know?
But I wonder if there's an app out there that's like a community app that other towns are using or cities are using that have all these. Sometimes these things exist and we just
Yeah.
don't know
Absolutely.
about them.
And a matter of fact, Ashley spoke about one that she helped develop in, was it Portland, Oregon? I forget. Some community app down, like,
Whoa.
like a downtown
On the
app.
broken
Did you
one.
get that, Patrick? Like a downtown app that was made for that,
Yeah.
for promotion, for direction.
I wonder what the success was.
She seemed to think it was very well accepted, but success to me is
Downloads and users.
based on how many users. You know, if you're just doing it for fun, then people are
The
gonna
size
lose
of
interest.
The city versus the
Right.
size of the town.
Right, so if I think it all, truthfully, I think it all, and we've talked about this over the years,
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to getting a structured parking system for downtown Walpole, where every spot has a unique number, and it's run by those kiosks.
Do we charge for parking now?
We don't necessarily have to charge for parking, but you can reserve a spot. But maybe you charge for premium parking, a quarter, doesn't matter what it is. But just so we can have a reason, to monitor parking, which is a big problem. You don't want people, and I don't want to repeat things that we've been saying for 5 years here, but I've been saying them for 5, it's probably been talked about for 15 years. But people parking in the downtown area to get on the train, it's not right. And now with the limited train parking, we're gonna start seeing it more, that people are starting to commute more now again.
Is there a 2-hour limit in downtown?
Well, there are limits. You're not supposed to commuter park in Main Street or behind here.
So is it more of an enforcement issue with the police?
It's an enforcement issue 100%. So if we were able to have a parking system in town with the kiosks that you see everywhere that you go around, and again, it doesn't have to be a big money thing. In Lexington, they have a parking system in Lexington Center, and it's 25 cents to park.
I'm just thinking, if the problem is the commuters and we're running out of parking, why charge the people that are going down there for a bona fide reason versus ticketing the people that should not be doing it for an illegal reason?
I'm not sure that we would want to,
If someone
let me
parks
understand
their,
what you're saying. Are
if
you,
someone parks their car all day long in a
Yeah.
2-hour spot,
right,
that person,
should be
You're punishing the
ticketed.
wrong person.
I'm picking the wrong person to charge.
Right.
Right.
The person if the person could go to that parking system and put in there and reserve their spot for 2 hours, they just stay late, they're still beating the system. If the problem is there's no parking downtown during the day, there's people there all day, let's then talk with the chief of police and ask them, can you enforce that?
They've tried that, and they do have trouble enforcing it. So perhaps you do tie in now an enforcement level with, with a limited parking. And if you're over that limit, it's gonna cost you.
Who sees that revenue from tickets? Do we see it as a town or does the state? Just
I
depend.
think the
Town would see
town,
locally. would be
I
the
think
town.
locally it's
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah.
I think,
Parking's locally,
I think
Yeah.
all, moving violations are split,
Right, right.
but I think parking is 100% town, right?
I'm pretty sure I can't,
Should be.
not positive.
So however they do whatever the specifics are of a parking system in town, it is needed. It's been talked about for a long time. The technology exists now, and it's not very expensive. A lot of these kiosk companies that run these parking systems for smaller towns let you pay off the cost of the system through your parking revenue. So they would keep a certain percentage every month of what was processed, because it's all credit and debit based, right? So the town doesn't even really see a huge upfront. You're paying for it over time with your parking. But what that does now is it opens up the door for things like this app. If you're getting online, 'cause I don't know if you ever traveled to like DC or places like that, you have to, if you want to find parking, you have to get on one of the apps. And you'll see it on the thing. It says, get on this app, find your parking space. Boom, here's your spot.
Yeah, but Walpole's not that serious.
I know.
No, I'm not saying it like that. But interestingly enough, if you look at the research for that, their biggest clients are small towns. The center of town.
Yeah.
That wants to manage their parking in a way that's convenient, modern, and easy to do. And if we did something like that, now you have people that are also getting on an app that could now foster some of this other stuff.
But why are they coming to town? Who's coming in parking?
I'm assuming.
Besides restaurants.
In restaurants,
That's
I'm
it,
assuming.
right?
Right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now,
They
absolutely.
then they already know where they're going.
Right.
So,
But they might not know where there's a parking spot. I've lived in
Right.
the town for a long time, and I've circled the loop many a time.
I
trying
can
to
tell
find a
you
spot.
where outside of just the loop where else I could park.
Just behind the
Behind-
Behind the buildings, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never had a problem
Me either.
parking in downtown.
Right.
During the day, I have seen the train issue way back, but I think that's an easy answer. We could ask the police
that's
to
also a
enforce it.
Well,
problem with the
remember-
MBTA not having the
remember,
right amount of spaces.
Here's where I'm going with this, though. This has been a problem in town and a talking point in town ever since I can remember. I'm sure ever since you can remember.
Mark, when you say a problem, what was the problem?
The lack of parking, the commuter influx to the center of town for the business parking, and overflow parking from like the pool, things like that. And straight up illegal parking all day to get on the train. That's the biggest problem. And now they've taken
But
2/3 of that train parking
yeah,
away.
But if
I
you
haven't
can fix
seen-
that problem, does that solve the rest of the problem?
Well, understand where I'm going with this.
It's like free advertising.
I don't think there's a huge parking problem
Either,
in
yeah.
town. However, there's a parking situation in town, or a lack thereof, at least in the minds of the people at town hall and a lot of the citizens. You can address many issues by installing this type of a system and then allow us to move into more creative things like attaching things to that app. And create revenue for the town.
Well, but it's not, it's not really gonna be a great revenue, right? Because it's a very low charge, but it's a hassle for people to do, and they're like, oh man, I have to pay for parking, duh.
No.
And it doesn't matter whether it's only a quarter, it's the fact that they have to do it and figure it out. I'm trying to think if there's any other way or reason to do this other than tie it with parking. Also, that's the parking.
Well, the
and
commuters,
the-
don't let I mean, I know everybody's been in this town for a while, but if you talk to any business owner downtown, they will all say the same thing.
For the
Now,
commuters?
again, pre-COVID, no one's been,
I think
Yeah.
that can be addressed with a conversation, and we get a request to police and
police don't wanna do it. They've tried it.
Actually, we had
Yeah.
a police officer assigned to that.
Mhm.
Do you remember Joe, the former selectman? He was named officer for parking.
They had a parking officer for a while, and then they tried to employ retired folks to do the chalk marks, that type of thing. And it all started off pretty well, for what I understand, but then it just fizzled.
Yeah.
But it's about to get worse though.
It's
since
going
the-
to get worse.
Right.
It
Yeah.
absolutely is. So I think we might be ripe. And again, I hear what you're saying, Meg, and I agree with you to the point, we're a nice middle-class suburban town with not a huge downtown, why do we want to have this parking, process if you're just going downtown? And I'm with you, except that I've seen it in so many downtowns now of similar-sized towns that don't want to make money, but they do feel the need to have to manage and control their parking issues.
So what happens if someone goes downtown, doesn't have the app, and just pulls into a spot, and someone else reserved that? How do they know that's an open spot?
I'm not sure you reserve it. Well, if someone just parks there and someone else, like if you use one of the systems where
You said
you
everything's
literally
labeled,
can
and I-
reserve
and I
it,
pick
right?
I pick spot 22. I don't know. I'm just picking a spot. It says free parking, and it tells me to download an app to pick a spot. Would that be a deterrent?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I mean, they will, at the
Most of
bigger
the time, there's like a
cities.
QR code and you just scan it.
Yeah,
and it
you scan
opens
your
and-
you scan the code right at the spot and it pulls up what you have to do. But I was thinking more kiosk based if we were gonna charge something for it. Those systems are bigger and, that's more of a city system but the downside of a system like that is if someone's in a spot illegally, they're
They
gone.
get toned, yeah.
So we're not gonna do that. We don't wanna do that. That's not the type of town we wanna be. It's almost like a little nudge past the honor system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but-
It's more management than revenue based.
How does this prevent the folks that want to get on the train?
Because
from
they
parking?
will get a significant
Yeah,
fine.
if they don't pay 25 cents the next hour, then
If you don't pay for that up to your time limit of that parking spot, 2 hours, let's say, the fine will be significant enough that you will not do that
But
again.
it still takes police enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Right, but if the police can enforce simply by looking at a database as opposed to looking at a chalk mark, trying to figure out who's been there, who hasn't been there, they will be able to know. Driving by with the proximity scanners, they have all that kind of thing.
I know, and they scan your license
Yeah,
plate.
they will be able to drive by and know who to write a ticket to immediately.
Can I ask, 24 to 30 months ago, when those buildings were blessed downtown and they knew, and the feeling was that parking was gonna be cut, what was the town's plans for that, those
Well, I was
MBTA
involved in that
spots?
pretty significantly. I was on planning board when they approved
Okay.
those two buildings. And I'm here to tell you that the reason it took a year and a half to approve those buildings, the primary reason was parking. And a lot of the things they talked about were this type of thing. But naturally, with everything that's gone on since then, no real new initiatives have really been kicked off, understandably so, with COVID and everything else. But parking was the biggest issue. They knew they needed to find some enforcement, especially taking away a lot of the MBTA parking over there. They talked about, how do we get somebody to fund a garage across the street? They didn't want to get into that. I believe there was some mention of even talking to the folks down in Foxborough at the end of the line here. And because of past instances in this town and past experience, they told us to take a walk. And I think he knew that they were doing that station over at the stadium, and they didn't necessarily want competition with a garage here. For whatever reason, nothing's moved forward with parking. It's an issue that will need to be solved, and I think we can kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone and maybe get some grant funding that could go along with helping us solve both the problems, part of this initiative with the wayfinding and whatnot, and then also get a parking system that A, makes it more enforceable to keep the long-termers out of the business district. I mean, we've talked about doing parking stickers because another big problem with the parking downtown are employees of the restaurants and stores. They have nowhere to park, and residents who live above. So we were talking about doing a central business district parking sticker system where you would have either and just for example, a blue resident sticker on your car,
In the year and month of use.
that's it, right? And then an orange employee sticker on your car, And now you can park, but you're exempt from paying if we were gonna have a pay system, but you're also exempt from any of the long-term, because one of the biggest problems they had with the long-term enforcement before was they were starting to ticket people who lived here and were just home, you know, up above
Yeah, yeah.
jalapenos,
Right,
you know?
right, right.
How do you know the difference? Or one of Ricardo's workers who gets there at 6 a.m., he doesn't leave till 6 p.m., and now he has a ticket for being parked there all day. So
So we don't have enough spots to satisfy employee and resident parking downtown?
employee, resident, and then patron.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
outside the street.
No, not even close. Not even close. They're parking down behind the old Bank of America in that lot illegally, usually, behind the fire station, anywhere they can find.
Does the town own that lot behind the fire station?
Yes.
Behind
Yeah.
Jalapenos?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's a disaster. I mean, there's like, you can't see the spots, people park like
I agree.
Yeah.
anywhere they want, like.
And like, what if we
That is getting
push
repaved
businesses to give them
recently,
a
though.
pass?
Yeah.
If you step up ticket enforcement on the streets, give employees a pass to park in that lot, and then give residents a pass to park in the lot overnight, so they have night stickers, so the daytime they're gone, nights and weekend stickers. Kinda, that may help
Yeah.
take a lot of burden off the street, and then we know that the street is 2 hours only, so then the police know exactly who to enforce, not pick and choose between an employee versus a abuser.
Right. And then back to what started this, we have people now people start parking strategically, right? You put up signs, help us help you find a parking spot. Here's our app. We have restaurants, we have stores, you know, and it sort of all comes together. You pull up to that parking spot, if there's a sign right there, you have to see it.
Yeah. There are very modern ways to help.
I'm just gonna see a market in another town. I wish if you know the technology in another town, maybe y'all on our
Know the
own will
brand?
see it.
You know, the last time I saw it was just a couple of weeks ago down in Plymouth. Now, I know they have a bigger problem than we have
Yeah.
because, you know, they have
Tourist town.
the tourists.
I
But
see it in tourist towns like Gunport, Maine, and down in
Yeah,
different.
Salem.
Yeah.
I think this is a police problem more than an economic development, or maybe a combination thereof, you know, it's.
Yeah.
even if the program paid for an auxiliary police officer that's just a parking enforcement officer, and that's what they do up in like York, Maine.
Yeah.
Was that what you were thinking of when you said Maine?
York and Gunport, they all have those
Yeah.
kiosks up there.
Right.
Very-
Like you try to park at York Beach and it's like,
But they're doing it for revenue. That's
Yeah.
all revenue based.
Yeah.
right, but for every summer, they have upwards of 3 parking enforcement officers that are just hired for the summer, and they ride around on bicycles. And all they do is write parking tickets, and it pays for itself,
Of course.
Yeah, they need
Yeah.
to kill
at least.
I mean,
That's
I would-
that's my point. The people that are abusing it should be the one paying, not everyone else that comes to town.
Agreed. So I think the way, in a small town, the people that are abusing it will pay for it with significant fines.
Correct. And maybe push residents and employees into the public lot, the sticker,
Right.
so then we know street parking is only 2 hours.
And we don't want them parking back here either, all
Back.
day,
Oh, yeah.
behind jalapenos.
I thought that's where we would want them parking.
Not for the train.
No, residents
but
and
the
employees.
residents and employees.
Stickers.
Oh, that's where we do want them parking,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
And then, and not on the street.
And then maybe
Right.
address would the town be interested in funding a parking garage on some property for the train if they can make money?
I was just thinking that, is this a missed
Like,
opportunity for revenue?
Exactly, because is it a private business come in?
And talked about, and we don't own any of that land near the train station.
Who owns it?
MBTA.
MBTA.
Could someone contact maybe, get a joint venture going? I'm no, seriously, if it's.
Oh, but
because
I don't
it-
mean to smile at you, the MBTA likes to, let's just say that Walpole has not done a great job in making friends with the MBTA.
What if we know a person?
Do you know a person?
No,
Our neighbor works for the T. She's she does something with the land assets.
doing a parking garage is an
a big-
incredible amount of money.
Right,
You're talking
right.
about $10,000 per car usually. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's all fireproofed.
Right.
Actually, probably more than that, honestly.
But let me
Um,
ask you a question. These
out
parking
there,
garages, like
right.
128 Station, I don't know any of the economics of it, but they charge, I think, $7 a car.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's making money. I'm assuming it's making money.
Yeah.
And it solves a need. So if you charge $5 a car, which is a lot cheaper than Boston, does that work economically? If it doesn't, you're right. I don't know.
I just wonder because I mean, 128 is a large commuting location. So I think
Plus
that's probably,
Amtrak.
yeah, that's probably where they benefit
And
from.
that's
If
right.
they,
Yeah.
I think one of the
That's what you're saying.
One of the holdbacks for that, believe it or not,
Yeah.
was the Gilmore property.
Oh.
Because that's where it makes sense, right there.
Yep.
Because the MBTA owns, between Gilmore's and Elm Street, on that, the other side of the road from the apartment building, that's all MBTA land, right? That parking area back there behind Gilmore's.
Behind
That the
Gilmore.
big parking lot that
Yeah.
runs to the.
Oh,
Johnson-
yeah, the-
Behind
on the
Gilmore.
other side
On
of
the other side of
yeah,
27.
I believe that is, yeah.
That's all MBTA
Is it being used as what right now?
parking.
Oh,
thing.
I think there's
but-
about 190 spaces
Yeah,
there.
but to your point, now that Gilmore's is either sold or being, or whatever, I don't know what the plans are for there. But I think that opens up opportunities maybe to approach the MBTA again, but we're talking, from suggestion to first car pulling in, you're talking,
Well,
Years
it
and
also,
years and years.
I mean, there could be a solution. I mean, if something like that were bought and developed,
By a private developer.
you probably, if there was an option to kind of encourage publicly accessible parking within that
the
structure.
real opportunity is something that is
structured
like,
parking.
I agree
Yeah.
on that.
is something that's blasphemy in this town. And that is putting a two-story parking structure right out here and getting rid of Stone Field. I think that makes the most sense. I'd hate to see Stone Field go away, because we all love it. We're from Walpole, it's been part of our lives growing up, but let's face facts. That's the place for it. And,
We just built new fields.
right,
We have fields.
so, I don't know, I don't wanna bark up, I don't wanna open up
it's just tough to
a
ask
can of worms.
for the town to spend the money versus if it's a revenue generating thing, it's easier to be able to swallow like the MBTA. Is there any land back there that the MBTA has that's not being used for parking, just vacant and raw land?
I don't think so. I think, where they're storing a lot of their equipment?
Yeah.
They own that too, so it's on like this side, the, what's that, East Street?
East Street,
I
yep.
see.
On the
Yeah.
East Street side of that,
It's just
so
like storage.
past Gilmore's, and then on the same side as Gilmore's, when you take the corner, all that stuff where they put their trussing, I think their signage, trussing and everything, they own that, but I don't think they're using it for anything except dumping stuff off there. But those two parcels together could be something. But how do you work with them? So,
Or do they even want to address it now? Because right now, they can't get a person to get on a train.
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, we may not have a parking problem downtown.
For a while, we may not have
For
one.
a while, we won't.
Yeah, you know what, actually, that's a good point. Maybe we table this because
Yeah.
the whole shifting of working
From home.
is
and-
home is changing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even as people go back to town, they can't, but they're all complaining now. Everyone's back to single people in cars.
Yeah.
25% occupancy in Boston, and you can't get through Boston at 10 o'clock in the morning now, because no one's taking the T. No one's taking, the commuter rail. So I just see it more as we get closer to what is normal here, which we're not gonna know for a while.
I agree.
And I agree, there is, somehow if this is gonna go back to the old ways, then yeah, the town's gotta come up with something, either privately or publicly. If that becomes a nightmare where, right, everybody's parked on Main Street and, people can't get there, or, people can't go visit their friends who are living in these apartments, the town's gonna have a huge problem.
Would
I
you
don't
say,
disagree with you.
Would you say out of all relative parking needs that are parking issues, that the overflow of MBTA parking is probably the most noticeable, the most prominent?
When it's
I think
at
historic-
capacity,
At capacity.
Right.
yeah,
Historically,
good word.
the answer would be
Historically, the
correct.
answer is yes.
Right.
Okay.
And that was
But-
with those two parking lots.
Right, but we also have not had any real-life scenarios
Right.
with those two apartment buildings
Yeah,
full.
I would add
Yeah.
that.
So we don't know what
what does
that's
that
gonna
do?
be.
What occupancy are they at?
High, I think
Oh, really?
Union and West is almost sold out, and I don't know about the other one, but I heard they're doing much better.
Doesn't this, one of them at least have its own parking?
They both do,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have,
But
you
there's-
have
there
guest
aren't-
visitors and everything else that,
but they took MBTA parking to achieve that. Like across from Union and West, that was always MBTA parking, and now it's all Union and West parking. So no train passengers can park there anymore.
And Union West used to be the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, used to be a parking lot for that too, yeah. So who, I guess, to your point, Kevin, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know if people are ever gonna start, commute the way they used to.
No, but
If anything, with this infrastructure plan that they're trying to push through, you're gonna see reverse commuting. You're gonna see people living in the city that are coming out here to work. They really wanna boost rail and public transportation. Because the long-term goal, I guess, long past my lifetime, but the long-term goal is to eliminate as much automobile traffic as they can. So,
Yep.
this is very future thinking and forward thinking, but I guess, John, to your point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense spending a lot of time discussing it now, but back to the original point, whatever that was, getting that app, getting people to look at an app with some sort of function.
How does that work if you've got public parking that people are paying for, and then you've got advertisements for private businesses?
Well, it would
How
be
does-
more
can
like,
you
it would be more
do
like
that?
proximity, so if someone parks and then something will pop up on the app that says, hey, by the way, right now, it's 2-for-1 beers at Jalapenos. Um,
well,
stuff
that's
like
I
that.
don't know if I think we'll find out a little bit more about
Yeah.
how a digital. I'm thinking more of one-stop kind of consolidation of where you can find what you're looking for, whether it's law firm, whether it's a residential, whether it's restaurant or so forth. If the app is, I think the app would probably be an option they may recommend, because it seems like it's it may be something that'd be easier to implement
The,
as well.
the chamber has been discussing doing some sort of an electronic or app-based version of their green book. People remember the green book that used to go out to all the residents? It was almost like a
It
little
was like
phone book.
Oh, yeah,
Medfield,
yeah.
Walpole,
Yeah.
and like.
Yeah.
But it kind of, again, back to Google, if someone used that before, I need to find a,
They're gonna use Google.
they use
Yeah.
Google, they
Right.
come.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of,
So it goes back to this, getting the
More
businesses
information, not-
more presence online
Right.
and getting better websites.
Oh,
and
the
getting-
technical
And,
stuff,
and
yeah.
the digital,
Yeah.
the digital marketplace is a component of it, but mostly it's the technical assistance to get, make sure everyone has the resources, or at least has access to the resources to make sure their business is profitable, whether it's, classes on how to run a website or to expand to, online services or whatnot, so.
From a visibility online.
And
Yeah.
look into that proximity stuff too, because I can honestly tell you that when I go to like Patriot Place, right, I will get a notification that will pop up and say, this place right now has,
Those are geo-fenced ads. where
Geo-fenced ads, exactly.
An advertiser draws a map around the area.
Right.
When you pull they dip
pull
your
in
ads
there, so now your proximity is within their fence.
Yeah.
And the pop-up happens. That's something for them to look at, because
Did you go there? Did you?
Did it work?
Did it work?
I have
I'm like,
I have gone to places where that has happened,
But-
to me. Like, a
Because-
pop-up has come on my phone,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
they
I
meant
have
to change
taken them up
behavior.
on it.
It happens a lot, because what happens on those offers, businesses have to give a very good offer, and
Yeah.
it changes behavior. It absolutely does.
Like for instance, his car wash down on the new one,
Mm.
which is awesome, by the way,
Thank
gotta
you.
tell you. And the guys that you have working there are great.
Appreciate that.
So, if I was driving up Route 1 and I was coming up over that hill, and all of a sudden, something popped up on my phone that said, free car wash right now, or
Give
whatever,
us your email. You may do it.
I might turn in, because
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of getting a car wash, but they made me think of it, and I said, damn it, I need a car wash. I look at the hood.
The offer has to be.
Wow.
The offer has to be good.
Really good. Yeah.
No, but it helps.
Yeah.
If you were going to Patriots Place and thinking, where should I go? And an offer gave you a 50% off coupon to a restaurant, you'd probably go there.
Or
I
even
wouldn't,
better,
but
would you do this, though? You're pulling into
Maybe.
Patriot Place,
Maybe.
right? And it said, right now, Davio's, no wait. If I'm going there to eat and I'm wondering where I'm gonna have a 45-minute wait for a table, and Davio's just said, no wait, I might go there first.
Now you got me.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that type of thing. But anyway, so I think those type of things,
That's already there. That's already through
Right.
First, we gotta
Yeah.
get these guys on a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's gotta get them an app.
set up a
You gotta
website.
set up a
How does the
website.
funding get distributed amongst the businesses? Is it the same? Who decides where the money's going? Is it their need?
No, so this right
We'll
now
put
is a
together
fi-
programs and then they can
Opt in.
Yeah.
opt into the program.
Yeah.
This option is just it's mostly just an application to have a more in-depth conversation with a company or a group that knows how to run these sort of things. And so I'm mostly coming away with information in order to apply for additional.
Do you need us to
funding for this.
vote on this or no?
No, I just
Oh,
kind of
okay.
wanted to update you all on the project.
a little more than
Oh,
I
and I
wanted to
think
know.
that.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
Yeah.
I seriously, I wanted to know that.
Technical assistance, the town branding,
Yeah.
whatever grants are coming forward to come up with constructive ideas to, assist these businesses and or make Walpole more attractive,
Yeah.
then those are great. Go for it. Go
Yeah.
for every one of them that you
Yeah,
can get.
whatever you can get.
Absolutely.
Hey, one thing that we discussed the last time, I don't know which one of these things it would fall under, but I don't wanna let this fall through the gaps like things can sometimes.
Yep.
I think one of the most important things that Walpole Center is suffering from right now is aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And working.
Good sister.
And working with some sort of, whether it be a tax deferment or something that the town can offer these building owners to buy into a redevelopment
Sign,
plan for
facade.
the facades.
Yeah.
Where they, it is predetermined what it's going to look like. We have somebody come and design it, an architect, design what the downtown, what we could do to the facades to make them have some continuity.
Wasn't that one of the things on the, like?
That's one thing.
Is that in
with this
there?
downtown alley plan, right?
Well,
the
that's one
first
thing,
step
but
of
I,
it.
but what you're mentioning, Mark. So there is a program through the community development block grant funding to do sign and facade improvement. Last time I looked, the program wasn't running. Basically, the past year and a half through COVID, it's been kind of switching gears in terms of where that it's both federal and state funding is actually going. But in previous years, they had one option through a sign and facade program. The basis of it was basically that if a proprietor of a building were to buy into something like that, I think the grant would pay for almost like half, and then the proprietor would pay for the other half. And so that's kind of your encouragement to, if you want to.
It's good, but
And
I
I know
think that
the
the
sugar
town is
percentage-
doing it, I think the town would be doing this for the town's benefit. And I think that offering some sort of a one-to-one tax break over time, so if the property owner invests the money up front and buys into the plan that is predetermined, for the downtown, then they get either, I'm just throwing numbers out there for the fun of it, they get a 50% tax break for the next 10 years until the numbers add up.
I'm not so sure about that. Just in terms of giving tax break to private property, that almost sounds like a small mini version of a TIF, but it's
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's exactly
Um,
what it is.
I think that might be a little bit difficult to kind of do. Whereas this program, it's utilizing grant funding to get the project.
Well, from what we're talking about, from what I vision it as,
Yeah.
major construction, not
Yeah,
sign
you are
and
improving
facade.
the
I'm
tax value
talking
of the
about
building.
millions of dollars
Yeah.
to get it the way you want it to look, right?
Now,
You
a lot
don't-
of that comes up to a private investor. They have to I'm a private person that owns a property. They have to be motivated to want to do it and
Yeah.
want to work.
Right. What's the motivation if they're
Increased rent.
right?
Well, the motivation
Yeah.
would be, at a minimum, the worst person, the worst building owner, the motivation is, come on, you gotta do this, please do this, it's not gonna cost you a dime. And
Well-
eventually, it's not gonna cost them a dime.
Or,
I don't know if public money should be used for someone to benefit their own building.
Well, we're benefiting the downtown, though. That's the way I look at it. I don't want public money to be used for anything, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
That's just where I come from. I want the government to stay out of our lives.
I mean, yeah.
But,
well,
but I think the downtown is a specific area where it would just make such a big difference in this town and what people think about the center of town, and what new vendors will come into this town if it looked different.
Do we
Right.
have any more liquor licenses for restaurants available?
I don't know if we do. Do we?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Just
Yeah.
the side thing.
But that's,
No.
But it
that-
also-
we can get,
Yeah.
if
Some
you
of
have
it-
people that wanna come in, they're gonna find ways.
But if somebody wants to put money into nobody wants to just put a little money into a building and get a little bit of money back, maybe. What you wanna see is somebody replacing a building with a bigger building with higher usage,
Right.
with a higher density, right? Something that, and
That's your
by
that's your
then-
incentive as a developer mostly is if you have the
Yeah.
option to build up or to build
Right.
more dense residential. To be perfectly honest,
Right.
that is where
Right.
your
Yeah,
constant
First
revenue
floor
stream
retail
is.
with 2 or 3 stores above of
Yeah.
residential.
You're able to bring in
Or
better
four.
retail clients because if you're making your money from your residential component, you have a little more flexibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that goes back to the
zoning, and permitting.
Funding. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's something I think we want to take another look at as well. So that was one of the
Yeah.
other
I saw
subject
that,
matter.
yeah.
I mean, I personally, I looked at the density you have, for the mixed use within the table of use regulations. It's actually pretty good. What I came from was something that was more dwelling units per acre, and that can get kind of complicated between finding that kind of balance because obviously it's like you have, if you have to get that approved at town meeting, there's that understanding of what dwelling units per acre means. But obviously, if it's, I think the ratio that the town has, I think it's 3.5. You may remember from planning board. So it's basically, it was at 3.5 times the square footage of the first floor.
Basically 3 stores above then.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I forget.
That makes sense for a downtown area.
Yeah.
height
It's.
limit?
Probably 40 feet.
43 feet, something like that?
I actually believe it's actually 52, but I think they have a provision there where it's if every foot step back from the from the setback, I think you can go up a foot. So it's one of those, the closer
Yeah.
towards the center of the lot, the higher the building could be.
What I was talking about before, just while I'm thinking of it,
Mhm.
because it all ties in. Was it Fall River that decided, they had that waterfront,
Yeah.
and it was awful.
New Bedford,
Maybe it was New Bedford.
they redid theirs.
But they redid theirs much in this way. They said, hey, building owners, guess what? You're on board. You're doing this. We're not gonna make it cost you much of anything over time. But this is happening. And they pulled it off. And you know who was,
They pulled what off? What do you mean? What do you mean?
they redid their whole waterfront. It's beautiful and successful. The facades, the buildings, the look, everything. And they got everyone to buy in.
Providence. Providence did that.
Did they do that as well?
New Bedford does, the old Whaling
Yeah.
section
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
nice.
You know who was one of the people who was behind that? Who was our director 4 directors ago? Which was only like yesterday, but our first Main Street Live, remember?
Yeah, can't think of the name.
Anyway.
Stephanie?
No, just after Stephanie.
No,
Anyway,
trying to remember my history. I don't know.
she was great, but she was actually one of the ones that was leading that charge in New Bedford and made that happen. So what I'm saying is there is precedent to doing something like that and getting your building owners to get on board for the greater good. And it's not going to break their bank because the town is going to make it worth their while to get involved for the greater good.
Pat, what is the holdback here? Is it parking? How much parking you need?
In terms of redevelopment?
Redevelopment and the zoning, so if you can go 3.5
Density.
times up density-wise, is there a parking end of that too, so you gotta find the spots?
No, actually, I think there's a provision for laxing commercial parking
Right.
within the downtown, both the downtown and then East Walpole. There's I don't remember the section off the top of
You
my
don't have
head,
to,
but
you don't have to have so many spots per unit?
no. For residential, the component is still there.
No, residential, I'm sorry.
yeah,
That's what-
So that could probably actually get looked into as well.
Cause if you have you can go up 3.5 stories, but you have to have so many spots per unit, these parcels aren't worth it.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Obviously, if
Yep.
that's, if you're in the downtown, living in the downtown, the notion
If
is
we do a
well, you can take the
comprehensive
train.
plan where we do have parking stickers for residents in the public lot,
Mm.
maybe then we could lack some of the parking requirements for zoning.
Yeah.
and then maybe it makes it make more sense.
Yeah, well, especially for residential within the downtown. I mean, that makes the most sense to
First
to
floor
limit that.
retail,
Mhm.
3 stories above a residential.
The other thing you have to think of, though, is, and I don't know if this is across the board in your experience, Walpole, everything that is, you know, part of zoning, the numbers don't line up, or the numbers do line up, technically speaking, you can make something make sense. A lot of these building owners, it's personalities that get in the way. I mean, if you guys remember, how long did that Chinese restaurant sit there empty until Conrad's finally was able to work a deal with that person? 20 years? Those doors were shuttered. And no one could do anything with the building, and it went into disrepair, and it took 20 years.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think it was 20 years.
It's sat empty for 20 years.
It said empty.
But you do bring up a kind of a point that I always, you kind of hear around where it's, I don't know if it's mostly Walpole, but I know just coming from Attleboro,
Yeah.
where I used to live, is, there's great buildings and great opportunity, but then you hear like, well, they don't have any plans to do anything with it, and they don't want to do anything
Right.
with
Right.
it.
They
And
live
you're
in
just like,
Florida, they
all
don't
right, yeah,
care.
they don't care. They're
There's
getting
no
the tax break. and-
motivation you could do.
Right.
Yeah,
Incentive.
you could offer an incentive. They're just like, nah, I'm fine. I don't want to put in the work. And that's not everybody, but
No.
it certainly is those
A lot of
instances where it happens.
Look at the TD's
Yeah,
building.
we have it at that other corner now.
TD's?
Where is it?
Remember where
The
TD's used to be?
Oh,
Oh,
in the corner
next to
of.
the-
Corner, right
Next
across-
to the Audio Max
Yeah, what
place.
is that going on
It's
there?
empty, right?
It's empty.
It's empty, it's
Oh,
been empty.
TD's.
TD's, yeah, it's empty, it's been empty, it's got mold issues.
Yeah.
And the owner is like almost a phantom. She, almost impossible to get any response from, and
Does she own just that, or does she own the whole?
it's hard, I don't know.
That's one of my
Center of
eyesores.
this town
I'll
is
tell ya.
just,
I know.
the whole thing's an eyesore, if you ask me.
I hate coming out of the CVS parking lot and taking a right.
And it looks like
Oh, I know.
what, the TD's building?
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
So anyway, I don't know if we're gonna get anywhere with any of that.
Where are we? It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know.
So I think zoning, looking into the parking requirements, see, I'll go and get home tonight, just to check
Yeah.
and see, is there a requirement in the parking for the downtown?
Yeah, so I know like I said, I think they relax parking for commercial, but
But
for residential is the big.
residential would be the tough one.
Residential's what, 1.8 spaces per unit? Something
Yeah,
like
but
that?
even within the downtown, even one parking space per unit, or per bedroom. If you go,
But if you had a half acre lot,
Yeah.
20,000 square feet, so that means you could do 3 stories above. At 22,000, if you did it all building, even take half of that for parking, so 12,000, 24, 36, you're gonna have 20 units out of that building. You wouldn't have 20 spots. You can do it.
Right.
So,
But if you could do,
if you could put stickers and put them in the public lot overnight, relax the zoning requirement for parking,
yeah.
start with a small area, see if it fills up, then we could, if it's working well, expand the area.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
How does the condo units control people parking in their reserved spots?
I imagine. if
Key
it's co-
cards.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
condos?
I mean,
Condos
the
in general.
apartments
In
now.
general?
Apartments over there.
yeah, you know.
Oh, the apartments, or
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't have enough spaces for all those units, do
they
they?
must have some sort of.
1.3
Yeah,
per unit?
they're probably ticketed as well, and I think you mentioned key cards.
Yeah, it's got.
There must be a system in place.
For
to kinda
underneath,
monitor who's in.
They have
Yeah.
gate
Oh, they have
access.
underneath parking.
Yeah, and then if it's
Oh, yeah.
across,
Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah.
There's a ton of underneath
Yeah.
parking there.
Huh.
Yeah.
for an extra
Otherwise, we wouldn't
150
be
a
able
month.
to
Yeah,
get
no.
here today.
It's a wait and see. I think that would anything like of this scope even have a shot at being looked at prior to the master plan being developed? The new master plan?
What'd you ask before that? Sorry.
Any of these things that we're discussing have a shot at even being looked at before?
I think
a
they
new
could be
master
part
plan?
of the process.
Yeah,
I think that's
okay.
definitely the time to bring things like that forward.
Right,
Yeah.
to get them
Yeah, to get them on the radar
On the
as
radar,
things to
yeah.
try to tackle within the next 20 years.
20 years.
Hopefully sooner.
20 years. My daughter will live it up. I'll be, I don't know where I'll be.
You never
Um,
know.
Meg, you're on that committee, right?
Yeah, It
Oh.
hasn't met yet, and they're
Right.
not positive who's gonna be on it
Yeah.
yet.
The
So,
master plan
Yeah.
committee, yeah.
Well, yeah, so we're just waiting for kind of final confirmation on that.
Okay.
You said you were interested, except you have to check
Time.
what your time
Just
availability
What
is.
time commitment are they requiring? If, I
Right.
don't wanna commit to something if I can't do it, so if
Yeah.
it's a lot of meetings and a lot of work, I probably have to say no. If it's just a couple idea generation meetings, brainstorming over a year, I could join.
Yeah,
right.
we'll be able to provide that information,
Yeah,
hopefully,
good.
hopefully sooner.
All right,
Uh,
so
So-
what did we do? We discussed pretty much,
one.
well, almost two, right?
It's, yeah.
It's a
Didn't the
good discussion,
streetscape and alleyway,
Yeah.
we kinda delved into that a little bit, didn't we, or?
Yeah, and so that's just one thing I kind of wanted to touch up on. So I applied for Mass DOT Shared Street and Spaces grant. I wanted to kind of take another look at both streetscaping as well as like aesthetical improvements to the alleyway. The whole Shared Street and Spaces program the idea behind it is to kind of implement reuse of public spaces and public infrastructure for multi-purpose. Whether that's trying to increase foot traffic, trying to provide additional options for seating or dining, or just generally reusing public spaces in a kind of more productive way. So the project right now, obviously, we just recently received the funding, trying to work with, get notification out to property owners that are in the vicinity of the project, kind of have their buy-in before doing anything.
Okay.
I've been in communication with Destination Downtown as kind of that civic group, that nonprofit group, as that for both public feedback and a little bit of assistance with. And from there, I did have a kind of a brief conversation with the DPW director just to get him aware that this is something hopefully down the line looking to try to implement. So I just want to get everything aware first before I kind of go hopefully bring the project more forward to the selectmen before purchasing implementing the project basically and
Sure,
purchasing items.
Okay.
It's a semi-temporary measure. There could be things kind of from that become more permanent. I know, talking to Destination Downtown, they mentioned like lighting is kind of a concern, especially for some of those alleyways. So something that's kind of more structural or beneficial for pedestrians and workers. Those are hopefully something that, if possible, and done within the scope. Obviously the amount of funding is fairly minimum in terms of like an infrastructure project. A lot of that's kind of by design. The grant itself, some of those kind of key features that they were looking for was projects that can be done quickly and things that can be done under $50,000. So that's kind of where we get that price of
20 something, yeah.
20, yeah. So, and the work, ideally, I'd love to have everything kind of done by late August, early September to hopefully be utilized more so in the fall. The goal, obviously, long before the end of the calendar year to have everything kind of wrapped up by. But, right now I'm kind of shooting for hopefully early September to get that thing up and running.
Like I saw some of these pictures here of the, like, the
Examples.
lighting strung across the alley and stuff like that, things. I don't know why I thought this. I pictured something like this being more of a permanent solution.
Yeah, and
Or like, you ever see the decorative gas lights they have on the common? Maybe like some of those lights down the alleys, just keeping the spaces the way they are, but making them nicer and more inviting and that type of thing, but on a permanent basis.
so that actually is a really good point. So I'm factoring in the 4 alleyways, and I think you could even think of 5 right by the old town hall as kind of an alleyway as well.
Right.
The scope of the work can change, and luckily, as long as we're kind of adhering to the goals of the program and the grant, I think that can fluctuate. So we could look at specifically the 2 pedestrian alleyways in particular. That money could be reinvested in those locations, and you could get more maybe permanent or semi-permanent changes, whether it's illuminated ballers or even
Yeah.
some decorative lighting, if it fits within the scope of the work.
Sure.
Within this within the funding. And that's something I kind of want to take a more in detailed look to figure out what's the best use of what we have with this funding, and try to
I like the idea
maximize
of
it.
the permanent rather than.
Yeah, I
Why
think-
wouldn't
Oh, same.
permanent
Yeah.
fit into like a town infrastructure or?
What was that?
Well, why wouldn't, if you're doing something permanent,
I think it, no, I think
that
it
would
can.
fit into the town budget
Oh.
to invest in it versus everything coming outside from a grant.
Yeah, and so that would probably be more of a change in scope and something that I would want to talk to with DPW. Ideally, I wrote the grant to be more streetscaping, and more
Yeah.
kind of reuse.
It's a
We wanna make sure
larger
we-
scope.
Yeah,
Before you get something, I love step by steps, right? If, let's make an improvement,
yeah,
but leading towards.
permanent
like Laura
changes.
said, Some permanent use.
And just make sure
Yeah.
that we keep using the proper terminology, like streetscaping versus we need these alleyways lit.
Yes,
Because when it comes to the town,
That's an
those are two
infrastructure.
very different
Yeah.
things.
correct.
Absolutely.
You know, so streetscaping that also solves a problem,
Yeah.
you know? Will get us to where we wanna be, I think.
Absolutely right. Yeah, so I'll keep the committee updated on that, on how that goes, and obviously if it changes to be something to be a little bit more, kind of what we mentioned, a little more permanent, keep you updated on that. I don't know if we want to go into this tonight. I was going through some old files with with the EDC, and I know there was like, a business forum was something that had been done a few years, probably before COVID. I don't know if we have time tonight, but like just a general discussion on if that's something to kind of look into to try to bring forward again. I'm thinking especially after COVID and kind of that separation, maybe it's an opportunity to kind of,
I don't know what it is.
Oh.
Harry usually,
Card, it's
Yeah,
usually
I
the chamber.
talked to,
Dr.
the
Harry.
golf club.
Yeah.
And, they're willing to have it in, I said it'd probably be October, so,
It's like,
late fall anyhow.
Mm.
And, they hold, probably 150 people so in the main hall and, serve breakfast.
Mm.
Usually have a breakfast meeting and, they're receptive to having it, so.
I think Harry at the chamber
There it is.
really is the lead on this.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
maybe we ought to put that on for either the next
Spring.
meeting or if we're thinking of October.
Yeah.
But what is it?
No, is to bring all
The
the.
business forum is,
Go ahead.
you bring in members of, the town hall. You serve a breakfast, maybe you have a keynote speaker or two, and inviting all the business owners in town, and where they can, A, network, but B, maybe find answers to some questions that they may have. How do I do this through the town? How do I make that happen? And then maybe the speaker might be someone who will talk about, tax changes for this year, things like that. More of an informational networking session held around a breakfast. It's been, I think, successful to a point.
We used to have a couple of awards too for, new business in town and, that type of thing.
I mean, to me, I don't know if people are in need of that kind of an information session, and I could be dead wrong, but I consider myself pretty typical in my thinking. And whereas if I believe something, I think I fall into that average range where I find that a lot of people are like, yeah. If I want to find something out about town hall, I can probably find that out pretty quickly by making a phone call if I have a question. If I want to find out what the tax changes are for my business this year, I'm probably just giving it to my tax guy. If networking is the goal, then I think there are ways to accomplish that goal that would be different than just a one-off breakfast meeting.
Chamber of
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would do a monthly chamber networking meeting, and invite the heck out of non-members. I mean, I wouldn't just make it the members every time.
Kind of like that idea.
I would invite
Yeah.
everybody, A, trying to get them to join, but B, network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to do something like that. If it was held monthly, I'd be inclined to go maybe every quarter once, or every other month. I probably wouldn't go to all of them.
Yeah, monthly's a little,
A lot.
lot.
But I think monthly allows people that
They can
Enough
choose.
people
Yeah.
to
to go to this one, but not to that one, and as opposed to one big business forum, you know? And maybe at these networking events, we have just general information. If you have questions about the building department, here's the number. If you have questions about the town administrator, here's the number, you
Our
know?
main topic for the night or something.
Right.
I was gonna say, or a different department every month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just have it be more, and I wouldn't necessarily do breakfast. I might do a cocktail hour. You know, I think that attracts more people than a
Yeah,
breakfast
in the
would.
morning, you try and get to work and
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know, those are my 2 cents on it. What's worked in the past, I'm not sure the world we live in today is the same as that. I think people are used to getting information that they want very quickly, and I think it's more about networking, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
On the other hand,
Fully agree.
personal contact counts for a lot.
Oh, I
If you're
agree,
sitting
yeah.
around a table with the police chief or the building inspector, you get to know them.
Absolutely. So that's why the networking is important. So, John, to your point, maybe having one department head every month, hey, this month, the police chief's gonna be here, come down, talk to him. This month, the building inspector's gonna be there. And that gives these people, hey, you know what, I've been meaning to talk to that building inspector, I'm gonna go to this, you know, that type of thing. That way, the department head's not overwhelmed at some big thing where they feel like they gotta talk to everybody all at once, that's it.
Yeah.
And it, like, gives people a
Well,
chance to get out and meet.
It becomes a little more casual, and you
Yeah.
can probably get a lot more people at night like that as well.
Right, and over the course of the year, if you're doing it once a year, there's your year. But over the course of the year, I think you're gonna touch more people having it this way over time than you would having one event at 8 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Yeah, I'll talk to Harry. I mean, I'd like to explore the idea. I think it's kind of definitely a cool option.
Yeah.
Different idea. I had Main Street Live updates on there as well. I don't know if we have anything new.
No, we're just moving forward. We got, as far as, last I heard from Danell, he's good with the infrastructure part of it.
Okay.
I'm booked with all the technical stuff for the music, stage, and negotiating with talent now.
Okay.
I've turned on my recruiting.
Yeah.
It hasn't yielded anything, but I'm not giving up
For volunteers?
for volunteers.
Mark, do you have your tips license as well?
No,
Or
I'll get that though.
Okay, so
Yeah,
from the permitting side, I know I have the 2 applications in for the one-day entertainment and the use of town property. Ideally, if we want to try to shoot for maybe August 3rd, or if we could do,
is that the next time the
That's-
selectmen meet?
I don't know if that's their next meeting or if.
I just have to
the
renew
first
it.
one.
I had my tip and I just didn't renew it, so
What
it's
is
like
that?
a,
What is that?
it's, tip certification is just, I forget what TIP stands for, but it's, it goes through alcohol serving training, how to tell
Oh,
if someone's
okay.
had too much,
Got it.
you know,
Yeah.
that type of thing, and
Yeah, in order for the one-day liquor license, it's one of the required documents.
one person needs to have it, right?
Yeah, so that's, I think that's just like the one outstanding document. If I get that, then I could probably,
it's an online thing. I will just
Yeah.
go renew it, and it's like a half an hour it takes for the online test.
okay. Ideally, yeah, if we could, if we were able to meet on August 3rd, get all the permitting out of the way and done, then probably focus just on hitting that thing. Focus on just advertisement and awareness for it.
Have you, and it's okay if you haven't, because I don't think it was on your list, but do we have an update from Rec about the food trucks?
No, yeah, we do. I have, I don't know if I included that in the
You did.
update. All right.
In the
It can,
It was in the
6
update?
Food trucks.
Yeah.
Confirmed
Pretty
food trucks?
awesome food
Yeah, so I had spoken to Ariel, who's
Yeah.
who's the assistant director of the rec department, and so she had confirmed probably about 6 food trucks that are interested and are probably secured for the day.
Good.
the Captain Martin one's unbelievable.
Yeah, Captain Martin's is the one that has been at this
Unbelievable.
event since day one. They've been at every event.
Just fried seafood, or
Every.
more than that?
Lobster
Yeah.
rolls.
Lobster rolls are
alright.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And you know, they're a very well-run business, Captain Martin's, and the one thing about them is they stick it out. other food trucks, you know, around 9, 10, they're starting to pack up. Captain Martin's, believe it or not, has people running things from Wellesley. If they start to run out, they're not leaving.
Wow.
They are always the last truck to
They
leave.
do a great
That's
job,
awesome.
very well in business.
So, yeah, they're great.
Yeah. So that looks like where we're at for food trucks. And I think next week we had planned on that department head meeting.
Yeah, and I might have to take that
Okay.
remotely, but
Yeah, I think we might do that remotely in general, just for ease of getting everyone
one
on.
question I did have for you,
Mhm.
and you don't have to answer it now.
Yep.
Take it offline, but
Yep.
I may be securing a brewery to do a beer garden on their own.
This is separate from the Main Street Live.
No, this is during Main
Okay,
Street
good.
Live, but we're gonna work on, because we don't wanna take away from our own
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah.
So they would run it as a marketing
Mm-hmm.
event for themselves. We would still buy the product from them,
Okay.
and they would still sell it to their consumers, but we would get the profits on the retail sale. But we would buy it wholesale from them. So if they show up with X
I
cases
gotcha.
of beer, we're giving them a check, a wholesale check for that
Yeah.
product. And then whatever they sell in their beer garden, we get. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're still gonna get those sales, but they're gonna run it as,
They get
An
to use their
opportunity for
brewery, that
marketing.
makes sense.
So yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, and I'll talk to you offline about
Yeah.
that a little bit more.
but I just didn't
as
know
well.
if we needed to do something different with the liquor licensing for beer garden to come in and do that.
I mean, as long as they could sell.
I think that if they are the one distributing, then they would be the one whose tips license would be, and need them
Unless
to
we're,
apply.
I see, I think the way I look at it is,
Yeah.
and this is why we should ask the selectmen,
Yeah, I'd probably run that.
we're
by
buying
them.
it from them. We're just employing them to serve it.
Yeah, but if they're the ones serving it, then I guess they would be the ones applying for that one-day liquor license.
Would they be the only one serving it, or?
Well, see, we don't want them applying for a liquor license to sell,
No,
because we want control of those sales.
but they would be
Sell
their
and
tip
serve.
certificate, though.
Well, like,
Let
for
me ask you a
instance,
question. I
yeah.
volunteered to serve beer last
Right.
time, so would I be working alongside them, or would I be working?
I think they have their own marketing group that goes around and does these. I think they would be doing their own thing in terms of the actual delivery, because they want a theme inside their beer garden, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably do it all the time.
They do. They-
probably know,
They know exactly
And
what,
can take
what they
care of
need to do,
this,
except they're not used to selling somebody else's product, which
Yeah.
technically on the books, it's somebody, even though it has their name on the can.
Yeah.
We bought it,
yeah.
we're getting the profits, they're just delivering it. But I think it's the same as if we had John
I think it's a
behind one of
paperwork
the
issue,
bars.
not a, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
concept
they
sounds
probably do it
great,
all
but
the time
yeah.
too, so they'd probably know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think it'd be fun. I think I was trying to
Sounds
think maybe we put it up on the gazebo and maybe surrounding the gazebo. That way they can control who goes up in there and around it. I think it might be fun to
Yeah,
add
let's
something
have a
like that.
conversation with it, because
Yeah.
I would probably want to convey that and talk to the administrator and figure out
We
the
can
ins
sell
and outs.
other types of beer at the same time. though,
We would
right?
still do everything the way we've been
Okay.
doing it.
Yeah.
And then this would be like their own little environment within Main Street Live.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to add different things every year to, you know, some of it'll stick, some of it won't, but,
Yeah.
you know, there's only one way to find out. Eventually, I'd love to outgrow the space that we're in up there, truthfully, but that's my own personal
Yeah.
goal.
Secure those fireworks, or?
Hey, you know, I'm still looking into that. Listen, you know what?
Good idea.
That is looking. That is absolutely doable. There are just some courtesies that I want to extend prior to
Yeah.
locking anything up. Like, I know I could.
Police fire.
Well, but in terms of police fire, that you could do. I mean, Norwood does it every year at Norwood Day. Everybody does that kind of thing. But the fire department takes a lot of pride in doing that night before the 4th.
Yeah.
So ideally, I'd like to have it be them not necessarily coming up with the money or anything, but I'd like to have their name on it to
Yeah.
have some continuity, saying, hey, the fire department, you know, we couldn't do it this year, we felt really bad, but hey, look what we're gonna do. You know, and let them take the lead and the credit for it, at least on paper.
I think it would go over really, really well.
I think
It
so.
will
The only
draw.
issue that you have is, I don't know if we want to announce it as fireworks, because you don't want this filling up with 5,000 people and having 5,000
Yeah.
people up there.
And not buying, not eating, not everything else.
I don't even mind that. I think it would just be
Not even being on
overwhelming
the
for
calendar.
public safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they are already, I mean, they get what, 5,000 to 8,000 on any given night before the 4th, right back here.
Wow.
And if you add 5,000 up at the Common, I think that becomes a much bigger night than what police and fire want to deal with
Oh, yeah.
on that night. So if the fireworks just become a 10 or 15-minute part of Main Street Live, without saying, come down for the fireworks,
Well, you'd want to advertise it if you did have it.
maybe 2 or 3 nights before.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I'd want people setting up coolers and blankets, and I just don't know if the police department would be, and the fire department would be happy with that.
Especially if we're serving alcohol.
Ye-
Like, things could get out of control.
Oh, they're not the ones lighting the fireworks off. No, I'm
No,
just
I
kidding.
know.
So there are a lot of hoops, but I would
Yeah.
love to see that happen.
Yeah.
And again, not a full fireworks show, just like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been to a fireworks show like Out of Control. It was drinking around, whether you go to Maine or the Cape in the summer.
Yeah, even even night before the 4th here.
Yeah,
is
never. They
always
serve
under
alcohol and
control.
everything else.
It's
It's
great.
always. It's no. It never.
Yeah.
I never seen one go out of control. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But, you know, a lot of times people, and I guess rightfully so, they have to think of worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's what
Where-
the.
I'm sorry, where do you keep pointing? Where is this?
Stone Field.
Okay.
Something this.
Over here.
No, I know, for some reason, I always thought it was at the high school.
No, you never came to the fireworks? How long have you lived in Walpole?
I just look out my window, see it up in the sky.
All right, let's move on.
21 years.
And you've never come down to night before the 4th? Oh, my goodness.
I'm not a party person, sorry.
Well, you will be
Sorry.
September 17th.
So I assume with Mark
No.
Donnell, we'll get our duties as we move closer to it, because I know we've all volunteered to either.
Yeah.
I already have mine. I'm
tickets
serving beer
or
all night.
anything. I'll take tickets.
Yeah, and we'll,
Ryan's gonna take tickets and.
we'll sort all that out. I'm sure that, you know, as we move closer, we always end
Right.
up getting an influx of volunteers.
Okay.
Within the last, like, 3 weeks, people start really, you know, the women's club, and they all step up, and it's a fun night.
Yeah.
People enjoy doing it. I know Meg is gonna tend bar all night,
Meg and I.
or lug amplifiers, you know, you can do that, no?
Is there anything else on number 5 done?
So yeah, if anyone read through that and has any questions, one thing I did want to mention, so there's another event planned on October 16th on Common Art on the Common, run by Destination Downtown. That's kind of a
October, what was that?
it's on October 16th. It's
16th?
actually going to be run from 12 to 3. Destination Downtown, I believe they put this event on last year. Had to scale it back somewhat because of COVID, but this year, you know, they're hoping to have live music, kind of an event space for outdoor art vendors to both show and kind of sell their product. Hoping to close down the same section of Elm Street that bisects the two commons in order to do like a community art event. They're pretty excited, and obviously in the planning stage right now. They just received their permitting and are going forward with advertising it. So.
Good.
Ideally, I know they want to also have kind of like a
Beer
wine.
garden.
Yeah, everyone does. Maybe like a wine vendor or something like that. So,
Fireworks.
Yeah.
yeah.
No Walpole Day this year, right?
Not that I've been aware of. So
All right. Do they want support for the uncommon art thing, or are you just telling us that just for our own knowledge?
most bringing up most own knowledge. Yeah.
All right. And that's Sarah Khatib's group that's doing that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else anyone wanted to bring up?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
John wants to get out. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Opposed,
Good.
abstained? No? Good.
I don't know who wanted it more.
I know, I know. It was a long meeting.